EA Sports has just released F1 25. In this video, I'm going to be talking through my first impressions of the game, all of the different features that are new for the game, and give my overall opinion in terms of a recommendation. And before I get into it proper, if you do enjoy this video, do hit the like button. If you want to stick around for more sim racing stuff, hit subscribe. I also have another channel where I talk about racing for every single day of the year from various series including F1, and if you want to do that, you can also check that one out. Now, I think one of the places to start is one of the headline features for the game, at least in the descriptions that EA provided us with, which is the return of Breaking Point, Breaking Point 3. It appears in every odd-numbered F1 game, and, well, it follows the continued journey of the Codemasters team, now with a new owner. And it promises to have the same kind of storyline, the same kind of narrative that we've seen in the previous two editions. I've really enjoyed the Breaking Point series that we've had in F1, and I thought it was a worthy addition to have in the Drive to Survive era of the sport. And as far as I can tell, Breaking Point 3 builds on Breaking Point 2 in that nice way. And in fact, EA and Cody's go another step with the F1 movie tie-in that you can get. Now, as of right now, there is only one scenario available, the preview. It's nice to be able to have this stuff integrated into the game, but at the same time, the fact of the matter is, this is released a month before the scenario mode will be available in full for all players. And part of that doesn't sit too right with me. It's giving Grand Theft Auto 5 heists, you know, where they were promised heists on launch and it didn't come out until well over a year afterwards. A bit like the PC release. But it doesn't sit necessarily right with me to be able to have this as like a flagship thing. But at the same time, most of it is locked until a certain date. I get that there are certain things in terms of licensing, in terms of movie rights, and in terms of different deals that EA, Cody's, F1, Apple will have all put together for it. But it would have been, I think, nicer to have as a, ooh, we've just put a big update in. Now you can have all the scenarios from the F1 movie. That's not to say that those are the only changes, though. Things like my team have been given an overhaul. As you become the owner, your character is now the owner. And instead of picking just your teammate, you pick both drivers and you decide weekend by weekend what you're going to do. I haven't properly had a chance to try this format out yet, but given that I've put Sonny Hayes as one of the drivers and Brad Pitt is looking fine in that, and I've put Hauger as my other one so that I could drive as Hauger and then rely on a dependable first driver, I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out over the course of this season and over the course of multiple seasons as the game progresses. Perhaps the other big thing that Cody's have been bragging about for this are the 5 new LiDAR scan tracks. Now, one of them, Imola, I thought was already LiDAR scanned when it originally came to F1 for F1 2021, but obviously I was mistaken. The circuit updates are good. In some cases, it's a bit more kind of quality of life improvements and reflecting change in the real world. Imola is that example for me, where, for example, the turtle curbs have been removed and there's more gravel. Other ones, however, I think that perhaps the ones that stand out most are the ones at Albert Park and Bahrain, where you see the scenery changing a little bit, the way that the corners are profiled changed a little bit as well, with Melbourne having been updated with the F1 game update for, F1 22? But the Bahrain one is a full-on overhaul, especially when you compare it to the previous edition, and it actually leads nicely into talking about the graphics and how the graphics engine has slightly changed year on year. Because one of the things I've noticed is, if anything, the game runs smoother this year on max settings. Now, I have a 4080, so I have a pretty high-end graphics card to be able to run max everything, and I'm running through a 100Hz monitor. With F1 24, It felt like I had to almost cap myself at 60 to make sure that things were as lossless as they could be. But with F125, unless I'm recording at the same time, it's able to do the 100 frames a second without an issue in pretty much any mode that I choose. Which is really cool to be able to say, especially when I'm CPU limited, and for a lot of other sim racing titles, the CPU ends up being the main limitation for me. And that's besides the different graphical improvements that I did just allude to. It feels a lot more immersive. The way the lighting works looks a lot better. There are still odd things where it almost looks like the light refracts and bends itself from the floodlights of the Bahrain Grand Prix, and there are some weird interactions with hitboxes that I saw on stream, where around the halo there was a weird kind of square pixelated bit that you could tell was sort of a hitbox thing as well. But when you look at the differences in how the light interacts with the different materials of the car, almost ironically, no pun intended, it's a night and day difference. You can see how it reflects off of the darker materials around the halo, or the carbon fibre of the wheel, or the weave on your race suit and your gloves. And it just feels that little bit nicer. It's something that a lot of other sim racing titles struggle with, how to be particularly immersive at night. And even the ones that I love for night racing, like iRacing, they struggle with this to a degree, but iRacing itself is renowned for being graphically limited. I would say that there have been numerous graphical improvements year on year in the F1 game that mean that the Codies have put themselves right up towards the front again. And that's without talking about numerous other smaller quality of life things that just add that extra layer of immersion to it. The F1 games have generally been better when it comes to how people are animated, and it has gotten better year on year as well. I mean, look at Breaking Point as an example in the cutscenes. But the player models have also gotten better in real time in the game for this year. I mean, I said about how amazing Brad Pitt looks, but you see it with all of the drivers. There are some bits where you're still like, ooh, that has rendered a bit oddly. But it's not, the Assassin's Creed Unity or Mass Effect Andromeda levels of things that people are critical of in gaming. I think that we're at a point where you almost have to make it a bit less realistic, because if you decide to make it too realistic, people would be like, well, why don't you just actually get the people to do it like you would in the 90s in, say, the Tim Curry Space from Command & Conquer. But yeah, it's nice. It's a nice change. And I'll quickly touch on the handling as well, because that was one of the things people were really critical of with F124. I wouldn't say there was too much in the way of changes for F125, but at the same time, there are smaller improvements here and there. You can still just spam the downshift down to first and sometimes just floor it out of slower corners without much issue. But typically around the third or fourth crossover, the third, fourth gear crossover, you can get loose, you can spin, and it might not end well for you as well. There are also smaller changes to quality of life that you could argue to make the game more accessible as well. For instance, I know that there have been things like the gear shift up indicators, but I don't remember coming across the accessibility ones for track limits, for example, or for turning in, for accelerating and braking. These are things that you can tune, you can choose different hertzes that they go through at different frequencies and the different volumes. And I tried the track limits one for a while, but then it didn't really feel too great to me. I think it's one of those ones that people up at the very top end probably already have something similar put in. I was thinking, oh, this will mean I won't invalidate my laps. But when I first booted up the game, it didn't show up on my end. Then later on, when I shut it down, went away for a bit and came back, it was on. And I really noticed it. And I had it down at volume 1. I had it down at the lowest volume because I wanted it to be one of those things where you could hear it possibly around the same level as curb noises, but it was quite noticeably distinct and louder than it, even at the lowest volume. So it's not something that's designed for me, but I would love to have that kind of feature, like you can have the beep for the upshifts. Anyways, the last thing, and perhaps unsurprisingly, is it worth it? I've spent a lot of money on the F1 games over the years, almost as much as I've probably spent, well no, I think I've probably still somehow spent more on iRacing. But there are definitely other franchises that I've spent about the same amount on, probably the WRC games. But do I recommend F1 25? I mean, out of the box right now, if you don't have an F1 game, or if the last F1 game that you owned was, I don't know, 21 or 22, yeah, get it now. Why not? It's fun. It does what it needs to do. There's a good online scene. And a lot of the issues that people had with 24 have been built on a little bit and improved on a little bit for 25. But if you already own 24 and if you already own 23 and you're not wanting to part with, 50, 60, 70 quid, yeah, maybe wait a while until it goes onto a sale. I'm not sponsored or anything, so I don't have to say, yeah, go out and do it and this is the best way you can do it. But I would probably not necessarily get it at full cost. The main reason why I got it at full cost, I have the ability to do it without having to worry about, what about this release or that release or the other release. And I wanted to be able to get the couple of days early access. And, well, I wanted to be able to have yet another world record and another F1 game, even if my F2 at China doesn't stand much longer. But, yeah, I don't have much else to say apart from that. So, let me know your thoughts if you've tried it out or if you're looking to try out F1 25 in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for watching and joining, folks. Until next time, it's bye-bye for now.